Good morning.
Good morning.
Opening arguments, as the judge said, are not evidence, but it's the opportunity for both sides to be able to give you some of a way of what we think is going to be the evidence is going to show. So what I tell you is this whole story that it was fantasy play. At the end of this evidence, you're going to find out that it's not. You're about to hear one of the most heart-wrenching, tragic cases anybody has ever heard in this courthouse. You're going to hear about, yes, Jamie Faith on one side. You're going to hear about Darren Lopez on the other side. And in the middle, you have Jennifer Faith. Now, during jury selection, they told you that she wasn't on trial, but she will be on trial. Her actions will be on trial. And it's going to be important for you all to know what she did in order to manipulate, deceive, and lie to Darren Lopez, to lie to her family, to lie to law enforcement. You're going to hear all those things. So what do you have? You have Jennifer, who was Darren Lopez's girlfriend back in high school. They went to prom together. The evidence is going to show that she was important to Darren. So important that she's what got him through his deployments in Iraq and other countries. She's what got him through, the memory of her, what got her through the suffering that he had to go through as part of his service to the United States of America. So important that he had to create, in his mind, Darren, War Darren, and Home Darren. So important that he listed her on documents as somebody who should be contacted if anything ever happened to him, so he could keep his war life and his home life separate. So, just like the state said, they dated, they were in love. Darren kissed her under the Eiffel Tower, and that was one of the memories that got him through a lot of things. That was one of the memories that he held on to in case he was tortured in Iraq or in other war-torn countries where he was called to serve. That's how important she was to her, that he kept those memories to be able to withstand interrogation and torture. You're going to hear about that. The evidence is going to show that. The credible evidence is going to show that. So he comes back to Tennessee, and he and his wife separate. A lot of it due to the fact that Mr. Lopez, a decorated war hero, had suffered traumatic brain injury and suffered from PTSD. Enough so that it's documented. It's documented by the military records that you're going to see in this case. And he was eventually led him to be 100% discharged on disability due to his traumatic brain injury and his PTSD, his post-traumatic stress disorder. And the reason you're going to find that to be important, it's because those disorders, because of that, his broken mind perceives danger differently than you and I. That's going to be very important, and you're going to hear about that. The evidence is going to show you that that is true, that it's not made up. Sometimes people come down here and they say, "Oh, I might have PTSD," when in reality they don't. But this is documented. This is not something you're going to have to wonder if it's really true or not. So he's back in Tennessee. He's been separated from his wife from about 2018. He's trying to meet people. And the other thing too is that we have to remember is that this is around March of 2020, when the whole world got shut down. Is when COVID started. So you have Darren at his farm, isolated from his friends for the most part, because he can't go out and do the things he used to do. And he's on the internet trying to meet people. And he decides to reach out and talk, see if he can find Jennifer. And he does. He finds her through LinkedIn. After he meets connects with her, and she's receptive to it. At first, she wasn't sure if it was really him, but she's receptive to his reaching out to her, and they do start an emotional affair. The evidence will show that right from the beginning, she started asking him about his traumatic brain injury and his PTSD. The evidence will show she went as far as to ask for him to send her his medical records. And the reason that's important, you're going to find out, is because she has a background. She works at a rehab center where she treats people. She even tells Darrin that she's treated people with his similar injuries and conditions. So right from the very beginning, she asks about this. And then she moves on to have conversations with him, and then she creates these fake email accounts. And they're not, the evidence is going to show that this is not any kind of role playing. You'll be able to see those emails. She creates these fake emails, and she makes one for Jamie Faith. And she ends up emailing Darrin, or forwarding Darrin an email purported to be from Jamie, where he asked her to be on this certain diet. It was a diet plan. And this was a way to get Darrin his email address and to make it look like it was real. Look at what he's sending me. That's not any kind of sexual nature. This is a way for her to make Darrin believe that those emails were really coming from Jamie. So as they go on and talk, yes, from the very beginning, she starts to ramp up to Darrin and deceive him to believe that Jamie was abusing her sexually and physically, that he was subjecting her to gang rapes. And Darrin is in Tennessee. Darrin in Tennessee can't do much. Again, this is during COVID. He's in Tennessee, he lives far from Dallas, and he starts to tell Jennifer that she needs to call the police. And he even goes as far to tell her, if you're not going to do it, I'm going to call the police. But then Jennifer would always say, don't call the police because it'll go worse for me. Don't call the police because of Amber, her daughter. She says, I don't want her to know what kind of person her father is. So I'm trying to protect her from him knowing, have the police come in and ask questions. When she starts to think that Darrin is really going to call the police, when she starts to believe that that's the case, she introduces Rob Schmidt to Darrin, actually gives Darrin the email. This is a friend of mine. This is somebody who I've worked for 15 years. I see if he can help. So Darrin starts to communicate with who he believes to be Rob Schmidt. And the person that he believes to be Rob Schmidt starts to tell Darrin, you know what? I'll talk to him. I'll get him to stop. And even if you call the police, Jennifer's going to deny it. She won't cooperate because she's trying to protect Amber from knowing about her father the way he really is. Every time that Darrin wanted to involve law enforcement, Rob Schmidt would appear in emails and say that he was going to take care of it. At some point, saying he had taken care of it. And if this is some kind of role play, which is what they're going to argue, you'll see that Rob Schmidt begins to send emails to Darrin too, saying, hey, the abuse has happened again, it started again, she doesn't want you to know these things, but it's getting bad. So Darrin is in Tennessee receiving all this information and already thinking that she's being abused and gang raped and that she's in danger. In danger from his point of view. The evidence is going to show that from his point of view, he really felt that she was in danger due to the way his mind works. So as we go along in time, in August and then get to October, the evidence is going to show that in October or late September, Jennifer tells Darrin that he had cut her hair and that it had gotten worse and that he must have snapped. And he had held her underwater while he asked for oral sex. You're going to see evidence that that's what Darrin was told. You're going to see evidence that he believed that after the oral sex underwater, that Jennifer had to be given CPR to bring her back. So at this point, Darrin really believes that she's in danger of death and in danger of further physical abuse. The evidence will show that Darrin believed that because of things that were told to him and emailed to him, that October 9th was a special day for Jamie. That it was going to be the anniversary of them meeting, of Jamie and Jennifer meeting, and that he had something special in store for her. That he was going to have her give oral sex to 7 guys, 7 of his friends that he already had told that he had done in the past, that basically sold them to her, to them, or let them do whatever they wanted to her. That he was going to have 7 of his friends repeat the oral sex underwater on October 9th as a present to her for them, their anniversary of them meeting. And that's very important because at that moment, that's when she asked him, I can't have this happen to me anymore. You need to come down here and take care of it. And she took advantage of his nature as a medic, as a protector. Somebody who would sew up people in the battlefield. Somebody who would sew up even enemy combatants. That was part of his nature, to take care of people. So she takes advantage of him as a protector, asks him to come down and protect me from this danger that I'm about to go through. So Darrin, that's why he gets in his car, comes straight to Dallas. She tells him, you can't come into the house because Amber's here. She also had indicated to him that he would also abuse her on their dog walks. This is information that the federal government received. This is information that law enforcement received. This is what you're going to hear. And that he felt at that time, in order to save her, he had to act immediately and take care of the threat. The perceived threat, what he truly believed, and this was all beliefs that he held because of the lies that Jennifer Faith had fed him herself and through the purported Rob Schmidt and the purported Jamie Faith. And a reasonable person would have believed that at the time, even if he didn't have PTSD. So at that point he acted, and he came out of the house, he had to take care of the apparent threat, the apparent danger, and shoot him. And he shot him in the head, he shot him in the torso, and he shot him in the groin as retaliation for the sexual abuse that he believed she had gone through. The evidence is going to show that after Darrin was arrested, he still believed that it was true, that she was being abused. It took a long time for him to believe that he had been played by Jennifer. He didn't believe that he had been played until he was able to see documentation that Jennifer had finally admitted that she had made up the fake emails and that she had lied to Darrin. You're going to hear that evidence. Okay? You're going to hear evidence that once Jennifer got wind that Darrin might be cooperating with the federal government, when she got wind of that, she made one last ditch effort to try to convince him that she was telling the truth. You're going to see a letter, and you're going to read. That was sent by Jennifer to Darrin in the jail, where she says, "Don't believe what people are saying. Don't believe I didn't make up any fake emails. That's people were making that up. It's not true." This was her last ditch effort to try to keep Darrin from telling the truth in his cooperation with the federal government. After she was finally figured out that Darrin was no longer going to go along with her in anything, now that he had figured out what really happened, and he was devastated, by the way, when he found out that that Jamie was really not the person that she portrayed him to be, or the monster that she portrayed him to be. But once she figured out that Darrin was not going to play her game or lie for her and tell the truth as to why it really happened and how she manipulated him, she finally had to plead in federal court. And she filed.
Objection to any actions after this on Jennifer Faith, Your Honor, an opening statement.
Sustained.
You're going to hear evidence that she admits to it all. Okay? That she finally admits to it all. And even after she admits to it all, she still
Objection,
tries.
Your Honor, as to what she did after the arrest of Darren Lopez. We are on trial for Darren Lopez. An opening statement.
The objection is sustained at this point. Parties can approach the bench if they feel like this is going to be admissible at a later point in trial, but I'm going to instruct you not to get into it right now.
Thank you, Ron. After both sides rest and you've heard the real story and the credible evidence, we're going to ask you to find Darrin not guilty. Because at the time that he acted, he had a true belief in his mind that she was in apparent danger, and he acted upon it. Because the real guilty person is Jennifer Faith. She's the real guilty person here.